Welcome back everyone to more gameplay of Bus Simulator 21. And in today's episode, we need to do some cleanup. But before we get to that, you take a look in the top right hand corner and you can see that our main quest has changed. Which means if we hop back out to the map menu, that we got both Highlander Park as well as West Oakwood upgraded to a level 2. And as I mouse over each one of these, you can see each of the stops in the area. And notice that not every stop has been increased to a level 2. In fact, West Oakwood has one stop that is still at a level 1. Same thing at Highlander Park. Not every stop is at a level 2 or above. In fact, here you can see a couple of them are not at level 2. But overall, we are at a level 2 in that particular area. In fact, you can see we've got a couple of level 3s there, which is helping to pull up those level 1s. So keep that in mind as you are leveling up the different areas. Not necessarily every single stop has to be fully upgraded, although long term that is going to be a good idea. But rather than moving on to the new main quest, which is to connect Golden Island, and we'll back out a little bit so you can see, here's Golden Island. All right, so this is a great tourist area, and our goal is going to be to take the tourist center here and basically create a route through here so that people can park at the tourist center and then not have to drive all the way through. And you also notice that it wants us to buy a CNG engine. So we are going to get our first glimpse at a new type of bus. We've been using the standard fuel engine, but now a more eco-friendly CNG engine is going to be available, but it is extremely expensive. It's about $350,000, but rather than go that route right now, we need to do some cleanup. So we're going to ignore our current main quest for just a little bit here as we try to clean up a little bit of where we've been so far here within the main city area itself. So what do I mean by doing a little bit of cleanup? Well, let's take a look at our existing routes. All right, so keep in mind the goal here. We want to do a little bit of cleanup among our 5 existing routes, and keep in mind that we have enough money right now for 3 new buses. So what I want to do is start with route number 1, and I've already done a little bit of cleanup here. We were at 4 of 3, which means that we were providing 4 supply essentially on our bus. This is where we've got our huge articulating bus, and then we had a demand of 3. So what I did is I came in and I added a couple of stops, and I'm going to show you exactly what I did here. So under the edit screen, previously we had, it was 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, and so on like that, and then it would come all the way back around to 1. So what I did was I wanted to get the overall demand up to 4, and I wanted to balance the route. So the way I did that was I added these 2 stops. All right, so these of course balance each other out with the supply and demand, but they also add an additional demand overall, so that gets us to the 4. Now my initial plan that I wanted to do was to simply come through and keep this existing route and then simply pick up this stop and this stop on the way back around to begin the route all over again. However, this particular stop already has 2 connected routes and it's still at a level 1. So without taking the time to go ahead and increase this to a level 2, which would have opened up more connectivity to it, I decided just to use what we already had and use these additional stops. So now we have an overall route demand of 4, and with our bus that is currently working this, everything is perfect. Now I know our peak demand and supply don't exactly match up, but that's perfectly fine. We'll just deal with that. But route is balanced. Demand overall with our bus supply is also balanced. And of course, we're getting a very nice payday from that one. Let's take a look at number 2. Now this one is not making us a ton of money. So this one is not one I really want to put a lot more supply on as far as additional buses, but it is something I want to do long term simply because we want to maximize our revenue, but it is not my top priority right here. The route overall is balanced, but I do notice that right here it has a demand of 5. So I'm going to look at either lowering that to 4 or increasing it to 6 so that we can match up with the buses that we've been using. Now keep in mind, not every bus has the same amount of demand. Our articulating bus has a demand of 4. So it essentially works as 2 buses. And if you have a route that demands, such as if we do wrong button. If we come back out and go to the calendar, you can see this one has plenty available. So each 2 is going to be a different full-time route. So we have 3 full-time routes here. And I'm not terribly happy with that. So we're going to want to do something with that. But let's come back to that. So Route 3, where are we right now? Route 3, we need to make an adjustment to. All right, because I had played around with this one a little bit. You can see right now, it's balanced overall. We've got 2 of 4, which means we could add 1 more bus. And then we are working the peak hours. But if we come back in here, I'll show you what we are doing. This one is a little bit convoluted. So Jetty Drive, I initially removed it, and that turned out to be a mistake. So if we take a look at, let's actually go take it back up to number 1. So what it's doing right now, and I don't know that that's going to make, let's actually apply those changes and come back out. And that is not where I wanted to be. So let's come back in and try that again. All right, so you can see every time you make a change that it's going to affect the profitability, even if you really haven't changed a whole lot. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to remove and remove. We're going to put this one back the way it was. All right, with the exception that, actually I need to remove this one and then bring it back right there. And let's see what that does. No, we do not want to automatically assign buses. Okay, so we're back up to 18. Not perfect by any stretch. So what happens if I take this particular one back up to number 1 in the list? That is where we were before. So let's play around with that a little bit and see what we get. Okay, so not too bad. All right, so what I've done is I've gotten our demand to 2 of 2. We are working the peak, and it's about 17 grand a day. Not going to say that's perfect, but it's pretty good. But what I wouldn't mind doing is trying to get the demand up a little bit on this one. So what if we just take a look at a couple of options? All right, because right now we are not very well balanced, and you can see that very clear at the bottom. I think I may have said we were balanced a while ago, but no, we definitely are not. So if I come in and I add a couple more here, then that's going to mess up the route a little bit. But our other option, honestly, is to try to maybe come up into here a little bit into Highlander Park and maybe pick up a couple of those. Because my thinking is maybe we could go up here, pick up 1 and then 2 and then come back around. So let's just see what that looks like. First of all, do we have enough room in our connected routes? We do here and we do here. All right. So if I go 1 and 2, then that should work out pretty good. Let's see what that does when we apply the changes. So we go back to 3. Okay, that really doesn't do what I was hoping for, but I kind of like that, but then at the same time, I don't. So let's try out some other things. And that's what today's video is about, in case you're wondering. I'm just playing around with some things. This is what I like to do off camera, just to see how this stuff plays into it. So let's bring those 2 out. Come back down 7 and 8 here. That balances us out. Now it makes it a little bit funky because he's going to have to go from 8 and he's going to have to go sort of around the world a little bit to get restarted. But it keeps him in the same area in general. He's in St. Anthony, Oakwood, and West Oakwood. Okay, so let's apply those changes. We come back out. All right, we're at 14.2. But we've got room for another bus. So I think I want to do that. Let's just stick with this. because it gets us an increased demand. All right, so we'll play around with that a little bit. Not going to say we came out on top doing that, but that could be a bit of a mess, honestly. So let's go ahead and get out of there. Let's get out of that. So this is a bus stop at a level 4, which is nice. We're making some nice money on that one. Let's come out to the garage. And we are going to pick one of our existing buses. This is one of the Mercedes-Benz buses that is a very basic bus that has worked very well for us. I'm going to go ahead and buy another one. I'm going to get the Citaro K. Get that one. And of course, first thing we do is customize it. I'm not going to worry about painting anything. And it doesn't matter which ad we put on there. And I cannot put multiple ads on it. I tried. At least not of these type. We might later on, who knows. The game might open up that possibility, but for right now, only one is available. So let's apply those changes, pay a little bit of money, and we are good to go. So if I come back over to the map, let's go to our routes, route number 3, and we need to go to the calendar, full-time bus, and I'm going to pick up this last one, accept that, and we're going to come back out. Okay, so not too bad. Okay, now we're back to making good money there. So you have to give it a second to update. So we're now back to 24.4, and everything is pretty much balanced. Again, we're not worried about the peak times, whether it's night or day or whatever. So we've still got to deal with route number 2, but now I'm happy with route number 1, keeping in mind that we do have some peak time here that we haven't addressed yet. And I've got room for 2 more buses, or at least enough money for 2 more buses. So I'm keeping that in mind. Route 3, I'm done with right now. I think we're good there. Route 4, I'm pretty good here as well, other than the peak time. So far, I have enough that we could put peak bus on 1 and 4 and be done. So I'm keeping that in mind. So far, so good. And then route number 5. Route number 5, you can see we're balanced. If we come in to the edit, what I've done is I came in, of course, route number 5 is the one that was created for the sole purpose of upgrading Highlander Park and West Oakwood. So all I did is I made a couple of adjustments here to balance things out. And you can probably pick on those pretty quickly. As to how I did that based on what we were doing before. And in case you're wondering, I added one here and took away this one here. So that's how I balanced that. We have a route demand of 4. It is perfect. But with a route demand of 4, if we back out, that opens us up to room for another bus. So that's exactly what I want to do. So let's come back to the garage. All right, so let's go ahead and buy another one. Again, same thing as this one. I really like this bus. It's very compact. It has a perfect turning radius for me. And in the future, I'll branch out, I'm sure, and try some different buses. But for right now, this thing is simply working for me. So another Citaro K. Accept that. Customize it. I'm going to use the second advertisement. We got several. This should balance out our advertisements pretty good, I think. All right, so let's go ahead and accept that. Looks like somebody's trying to give me a phone call there, but we're in the middle of recording right now. We don't have time for that. All right, so we're good to go there. So let's come back to our routes. And route number 5, come to our calendar. And you see we got enough room here for another full-time bus. So we're going to add our newest bus, and we are keeping Mercedes pretty happy here because we are buying all of their buses. So now that should definitely make an increase to our payday. You notice it hasn't updated yet. So 12.5, we'll just sort of click around for a second. And then now we're at 25. So perfect. And we've got enough room for some peak demand. But I'm actually not going to address that right now. And the reason is, now that we're ready to get back to, in our next video, we won't get a chance to do it today, but in our next video, we'll hop over to Golden Island. Let's actually get rid of this for a second. All right, so Golden Island down here, we'll create our route that will take the passengers from here on the tourist center and all throughout the park. We'll do that, but if we take a look at how much money we're going to need to buy that bus with a CNG engine, well, let's just hop out and take a look. So where we started the video, we're here in the parking lot of our dealership. So let's hop over and we'll click on our kiosk here. And we are going to go, let's do by bus type and then engine type. So we've got fuel here. If I go all the way down, there's our Citaros. And then, oops, let's get right down into, let's see if I can find them. Well, never mind. They're going to be at the very bottom is where they're going to be. Well, never mind. I'll just do it this way. Because the ones we're looking for are the urban way here. So 350 grand. So by not purchasing that last bus that we technically have enough money to do and putting it on a peak route, we're going to save that money here. And that way, the next time we're back together, we'll have enough money and we can purchase this. So it'll save me a little time off camera is essentially what that amounts to. We also have another option. Okay, but if you take a look here, the number of seats, we got 35 seats, 20 standing positions. This one is really spread out, so I don't believe that's very economical for us. Now, it's the same amount of money to us, but if you look here, 24 seats, 87 standing positions. So this is the route that I want to go. And so with that in mind, so Urban Way is how we want to get this thing going, but we need quite a bit more money, which means we've got some routes to drive. So that's going to do it for today. We got a lot done in today's video. We got some routes cleaned up to where I feel a lot better about them. Still a little bit of work to do there. I'll take care of that off camera and see if I can come up with any solutions to route number 2. But we got some things cleaned up. We got a couple more buses added to some routes. We're making good money and things are looking good. So that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me and stick around for more Bus Simulator 21.